if you're able to do that, to go seamlessly between autofocus and manual focus, I think this is where the future is for me. Then this would open so many more possibilities for many things.
What's new in filmmaking technology this week? News, reviews, education, insights, opinions, and ideas from the CineD newsroom with Nino Leitner and Johnny Bahiri. This is Focus Check, the weekly CineTech podcast.
Welcome to CineD Focus Check episode 30. Welcome. Hi, Johnny.
Hi, Nino. How are you?
Tired?
Well, we just fell out of bed after few very intense days at IBC in Amsterdam.
Yeah, we have to explain that the day we're recording this is Tuesday morning. So we just came back from IBC, which ended yesterday. And it's now morning on Tuesday. And we came back to a very wet Vienna, which was flooded when we were gone. Luckily, friends and family are fine. And now it's a sunny day. So
yeah, it's a beautiful day. And it's actually a really great day to talk about how we felt and what we did during IBC. But before we even start, I just want to thank our own team. We had such an amazing team at IBC, and we are very thankful to have such a powerful team that can help us. What you see is just us talking in front of the camera, but we have our dedicated cameraman. We had Jacob with us, and then we had Jeff as an editor.
I can show a photo here for those of you who are watching the video version. So we were 8 people this time.
Very nice. Let me just finish with the names. And Francesco, who is editor-in-chief while we are coordinating everything. Omri, that was helping us, of course, with the writing. And Florian, who was in our booth. Yeah. And, of course, Jackie. And she is the mother of all of us. She's kind of controlling and arranging and the time slots and everything. So, that's the team that went with us, and of course some of the guys back in Vienna also supported us, but this team is an A team.
Absolutely. And I think we've done this for many years. I don't know, 15 years now, whatever.
I don't know.
Almost. And I think in the early days we always said we don't need that many people, but now we have a big team and we see how much better it works. And I think for the first time we felt completely
balanced, really balanced.
We had enough, it's always like a catch-up game. Like, do you have enough enough writing capacity for the videos that are edited? And then sometimes the editing is faster than the writing or vice versa. And this time we almost had a balance. But, we shot around 40 videos,
yeah.
40. And we've only released less than half of them, I think, so far.
But this is intentionally, just to let people know that we believe that flooding everybody with a lot of information is a little bit useless.
Yeah, and we don't think, that there was always big news at those trade shows and the exciting things that we discover, we try to get out as quickly as possible. And not that the other stuff isn't exciting, but it's nothing secret or nothing earth-shattering, but it's just new stuff. And we just believe in the fact, like you said, that it makes sense to spread out this information. I mean, we know a lot of you are waiting for IBC news from us, but on the other hand, we're not reporting, about a natural catastrophe or whatever, where, every second something changes. So it makes sense for us to spread out the video over a longer period of time. So basically, over the next 1 to 1.5, 2 weeks, you will still see IBC videos from us, which is completely intentionally. And because we also... We think it's very important to have good write-ups with the videos and not just the video. So because a lot of background information goes also in the written articles.
Not only that, unlike maybe others in our industry, we don't make 2.5, 3 minutes videos. We really try to understand better and not only dive into the specifications.
With a few exceptions, if you have somebody in front of the camera who...
Yeah, sure. But in general, we always interested in the greater story. If there's an interesting CEO, founder, or some topics are actually not directly about products. Because, for example, I conducted an interview with with Fujifilm about prime lenses versus zoom lenses. It's an interesting topic by itself. You don't even have to talk about specific products to explore this type of subject. But anyway, what I want to say, please take the time, guys. It's not only about specifications. I'm sure you will find in this sea of information and videos, you will find maybe some topics that you like just to listen and get the knowledge. Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, and if you're interested in our IBC coverage and haven't caught up yet, the best tip is basically to click on the custom label, like this label on the articles, which says IBC 2024, because then you come to a page which has all the videos and all the articles around IBC. And, as I said, we will add 4 or 5 more every day for the next 1 or 2 weeks.
Great. So shall we dive into it?
Yeah. So let's, before we probably talk about those things that are on our table, for those of you who watched the video version, what excited you most at the show?
It was one of those shows where there was not a specific single product that kind of you said, wow, this is it. The industry has been waiting for it. But, for example, where is it? Wait. Sometimes I feel that my hands are getting shorter. This is the first anamorphic lens from BLAZAR, which is also an autofocus anamorphic lens. And this is a big news because I know many of us, you and me and a lot of our colleagues, have been waiting for something like this. And BLAZAR finally delivered. This is not an adapter that you just put on an anamorphic lens. This is the real thing. This is a Super 35 anamorphic lens. It has a clutch, like between manual and autofocus. This is our early pre-production. It comes in a variety of mounts, including L mount, because we know that many of the Panasonic Lumix cameras are really good for exactly such a thing. And it's a 133 squeeze lens, but we shot a little bit with it during the exhibition just to see the look, and it does look like something a bit different. It looks like the squeeze ratio is even greater, like at least 1.5. The nice thing is that we have 2 lenses here. Where is this?
It's not 133?
It is 133, but I'm saying the look of it is almost like 1.5. The look, like when you look at it, it just...
Compared to other primes.
Compared to other 133. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it looks as if the squeeze ratio, I don't know what they did here optically, but it looks a bit stronger. But anyway, those are really early pre-production units. And the company was kind enough to lend it to us so we can actually test it. And in the next days, we will jump into this and we will conduct a short test. And the idea is actually, first of all, to see the look of those. That's always interesting. We love anamorphic lenses. And we will also, of course, test the autofocus performance. But please understand, guys, this is not a final version. The whole AF autofocus capability of those cameras will increase. And those will be available in December, probably around Christmas. So if, I don't know, if your wife or husband really, if you don't know what to buy your wife or your husband, maybe that's the perfect gift. Who knows? And what was the highlight for you?
Like you said, I mean, there wasn't individual things, but in general that, like years after we've seen remember this announcement from Sony? I think it was with the FX9. They announced Cine primes that never came to market, which were supposed to do this, right? They were supposed to be full cinema primes with autofocus. And I think they only released one lens in this range and nobody talks about this lens. It's kind of like, I thought it wasn't even released, but I think it was released.
What year are you talking about now?
The autofocus cinema prime.
But this is anamorphic, yeah?
I know, but still, there is not any proper autofocus cinema prime because it's almost a contradiction. Why? Because as soon as you put a pitch ring on it, it will be a problem because the autofocus cannot move the ring, right? So what we've seen from Sony years ago was kind of a not so great solution in my opinion, because it was actually a fly-by-wire lens, and fly-by-wire means that you can't really make focus marks because you turn it faster and then the focus will shift faster, and it's not really mechanically connected. But this lens and also the other lens that we will talk about now from Sigma, they somehow managed to do this. And same thing with Sigma, they actually showed a proof of concept lens. They didn't even announce that this would be released. The funny thing is we reported about this when it first was announced, like they kind of like did like this soft teaser and without an image, and I photoshopped an image. You probably see it here on the video version anyway. But so I photoshopped it based on their existing cinema zooms, and it almost looks like the final version. It's just that the switch is in a different spot. So I'm proud that I faked it.
Are you sure you're not doing some side job for Sigma?
No.
As a lens designer?
Because there was a lot of comments on Instagram. I had a couple thousand likes because people are like, this was a horrible Photoshop job, and it was meant as a joke. Basically, I put the switch, an AF manual switch, in the front, and now in the real lens it's actually at the back. But other than that, it looks pretty much like that. Anyway, but the cool thing is I tried it very briefly on the Sigma booth, and Sigma, like BLAZAR, was kind enough to lend us this, which is really just a proof of concept lens. Like you said, it's not even decided if this will be an actual product. So they want to, find out from the market if people want it. But the cool thing is it feels like a proper full cinema zoom from Sigma. If you have used any of theirs, you will know what this feels like. And it has an actual manual transmission focus, manual transmission zoom, manual transmission f-stop, t-stop.
It's a full frame lens. Yeah?
It's a full frame lens, and at the back, the only thing that's different is really like from looking at it is literally this MF-AF switch that you have on photo lenses usually. And I mean, again, we will dive into this. We'll have this for a couple of days, and we will, you will probably do something with this in the next week. And we're very curious how it works. I tried it very briefly, and it works just like any great autofocus lens. It was very fast. Now, what's really smart, I always wondered what happens when you switch from autofocus to manual focus, because if the position of the focus ring is somewhere else, what happens? So what it does, it actually automatically jumps to the position that the manual focus ring is set to. So the autofocus doesn't immediately stop working. The motor moves the focus exactly to where the ring is, and that's how it works. So basically, that's why the ring doesn't need to turn itself, right? And it is, I guess it's like around 300 or 270 degrees rotation. So it's like a proper cinema lens. Because of course, I mean, my fear was that this would just be like a very short turn, like with photo lenses. So somehow they managed this. The only thing you can tell that here at the back where the switch is situated, this little part is not metal. It's probably the only piece that's not metal in this whole lens, but in general, it feels like a very high quality Sigma zoom lens. So there's really no complaints. And this is an E mount lens. So
it will come in two mounts, E and L mounts. And actually, again, guys, this is a proof of concept. Also in the article and in the video, we will add a QR code that actually you will be able to, point your phone into it and then kindly answer maybe 7 questions that Sigma has about determine if this is a tool that you guys might be interested to work. So I guess on this, then they will make up their decision.
My first thoughts on this are basically, imagine you use this. I mean, this is really made for, I think, owner-operators, of course, that are sometimes doing jobs with a focus puller and sometimes just doing jobs by themselves, because you can see that the focus markings are on top of the lens, not on the side. So you can see it when you are operating the camera, which is smart, I think. But also, I wondered, one thing that would be really useful, imagine a focus puller could enable and disable the autofocus on their fits unit, like on their remote focus unit, right? On the remote control of a focus unit. Because then, for example, let's say you need to track a person that is coming towards the lens, which is very hard to do, as we know, especially on a longer focal length. And you want to do this with autofocus because face tracking is so good on your camera. Let's say you could even do this on a Burano, but it can also be on an FX3 or whatever. And you do focus tracking autofocus, and then once the person is there, at some point you need to refocus on something else in the image. A very standard kind of thing, right, in one take. And then you could switch to manual focus and do this manually. That would be nice. But of course, I mean, the switch makes this impossible. But I think this is something also for Sigma to think about, because if you're able to do that, to go seamlessly between autofocus and manual focus, I think this is where the future is for me. Then this would open so many more possibilities for many things.
It's a very nice idea, but I think that's not for that target audience. Because this is more, as far as I'm concerned, it's more for the run and gun shooter. And when you're alone, you're the one to operate the lens, and the switch is enough. I don't think.
But a run and gun shooter will not use a follow focus.
Exactly, but you will either use the autofocus or you will use manual focus, but you will not be able to also.
Yeah, but this is made for a follow focus because it's like 300 degrees. If you do this manually, that's I think they also try to keep the price modest here. Of course, we don't have any price or anything, but we know Sigma, they usually try to provide high quality for a decent price. Yeah, I mean,
let's see. I mean, it's a little bit. It started 28. I wish it would have started 24. Then that it would have been a bit wider
28,
and more
45. Yeah.
Exactly. But we will start working with this and come back to you guys with solid impression of how it works. Don't forget, every little millimeter that you add on both ends already makes
especially on the wide end. Yeah,
it will make the lens bigger and heavier. And here they literally wanted to use existing optics already. So yeah.
We'll be back after this message from our sponsor.
Welcome to 1 Minute Tips by Fujifilm and CineD. Last time we spoke about the ACES color space, but what about other color management frameworks? While ACES was created to provide universality across various softwares, Resolve Color Management is specifically created for use within DaVinci Resolve. Like ACES, it also gives a great common starting point for your footage, regardless of log curve or camera manufacturer. It is also specifically designed to work with the Resolve interface, which is widely used across the industry. It generally supports more cameras than ACES currently does, though ACES is catching up. RCM also offers a bigger color space than ACES does, DaVinci Wide Gamut, which helps curb any artifacts from clipped or transformed values, though some might argue that causes the image to appear more flat. Should you use it? If you are mainly working within Resolve for your post-production needs, this might be the better framework for you. It is both versatile and powerful. If, however, you need to send your footage to other pipelines such as VFX, then consider checking out ACES in our other episode. This has been 1 Minute Tips. Until next time.
And now back to the show. And other than that, what else did you see that excited you apart from lenses, let's say?
I really have to talk about two more lenses because it's really felt in many ways that it's a kind of a lens show. So one was the VILTROX, and VILTROX is it just showed the Luna 42mm to 420mm, and this beast is 16 kilo and cost about $100,000. So it's kind of in a way, I don't want to say a proof of concept because it is an existing lens, but it's a very special lens. And in some regions of the world, the price of the lens probably worth a price of a house or a small house. But on the other hand, I think it takes a lot of courage from a manufacturer to do something like this. You know what I mean? I mean, this is really showing to the industry, look, we are VILTROX and we can manufacture something which is probably high quality, very defined, very niche, but that means also competing head in head with Fujifilm, Fujinon and other companies that are doing those type of lenses. So it's kind of an interesting attempt as far as I'm concerned. And
I mean, most lenses in this size are actually not covering full frame. They are mostly covering S35 because, of course, because those lenses become so big.
That's right. And this is really for large format lenses, LPL mount. Really crazy.
Why did they show this with a mirrorless camera and not a cinema camera?
That's the thing that interrupted me the least, to say honestly, because at the end you want to show the lens, not really the camera. I think it just kind
looks
of
like a lens
funny.
cap.
No, this is fine. It's okay, and you never know if they were able to get a camera.
And they definitely have the attention of everybody. I mean, as you said, I think it's like a statement. We can do this.
It's a statement, exactly. And the other lens that really caught my personal attention and imagination. We haven't published the video yet. We conducted a very joyful interview with another colleague cinematographer from the UK. His name is Steve, and he was at the NiSi booth. And I think many of us already know the NiSi ATHENA. This is a prime lenses, variety of mounts from 18 all the way to 135 millimeter. And those lenses they're built really well. They're cost effective. We also did a nice review with a mini documentary if you want to watch. The only thing for me personally, those lenses were clean, or maybe too clean. There was they're very nice, and many people really like this, like the lens, the image to be clean, and then you can enhance or destroy it in post. That's fine. But for me personally, I was looking for a little bit more picture aesthetic when I shot with them. And now NiSi came up with a limited edition of those lenses. The coating will be gray from outside instead of black. And there will be only 199 sets. Those will be sold a little bit higher in price, but they will have a different coating at the back of the lens. And this will allow a different flare type and different aesthetic altogether. And I'm actually very curious if that will give a bit more life to the lens. And I think it's a brilliant move. I do hope that at one point, if those lenses will be successful, that they will decide maybe to do another version which will not be limited edition and kind of open it for everybody. But it's a nice marketing move with this limited edition thing. I guess many people will want it. This is also targeted to be published during Christmas. So guys, what can I say? Work hard now to earn the money so it can all be spent around Christmas, no?
I mean, it's still, it's interesting that there's still such a big amount of new lenses being announced, especially in the prime sector. But I with those in general, you can see autofocus is finally creeping into the cinema lenses, which is great. And
zoom lenses. I mean, we can see more and more.
Lenses too,
yeah. I mean, of course, we have a few cinema zoom lenses, but that's also brings me back to this discussion with Fuji Non about this topic. I think the main two elements that we're gonna see is like one, even more zoom lenses from so many other manufacturers, and the second thing is, like you said, the autofocus. So what does it mean? If you think about it logically, you see that somehow the industry, or at least the lens industry, is kind of tuning itself for those independent filmmakers who are buying their own equipment, want to run with their own kit, and want to be cost effective. And I think that's not
the VILTROX though.
The VILTROX is not really for that market. Yeah, I mean, it's a very special lens.
But I mean, in general, also, I think it doesn't matter if budget or not. I think even the high end is slowly realizing that adding a autofocus that can be used also by professionals, because the cameras now have very good autofocus features, are useful, right? We see LiDAR technology creeping in. More and more people are using these. The popularity of the Ronin LiDAR system from DJI is insane. I mean, literally, like, people are going crazy over this. And that also brings me to another interview we did, which hopefully is released by the time you see this, with PDMovie, a Chinese company. Now they have a system that a lot of people are very excited about, which is a motor with a built-in LiDAR and a built-in battery kind of. I mean, you can exchange the battery, but everything is one unit. There are no cables. And that means that you have a motor attached to your lens, and that is really made for manual focus lens. You have a lens motor attached that has the LiDAR sensor built in, so it can measure, what should be in focus, like autofocus style. And this is really made for the independent filmmaker.
So it's easily making every manual lens autofocus lens. That's the idea?
Pretty much. And the funny thing is they showed a demo where it was just the lens with the motor without the camera, because it can focus. It can focus. It's just a funny demo because you don't see the camera, because it has no function. In this case, it doesn't do anything to the focusing. But we actually decided to give them a Best of Show award for something else that incorporates this technology, and that is called 3D Air, I think. And it's basically a how should I say that, a 3D shooting rig for a very small 3D shooting rig. So basically, those big shooting rigs for 3D cameras are basically very complicated, because a lot of high-end productions actually shoot 3D movies, like spatial videos for the Vision Pro and other VR headsets. Basically, this is where 3D is right now, right? I mean, we're done with putting glasses on our heads in the living room. So the 3D productions that are being done right now are really made for those use cases. And of course, Apple and Meta, they all have a very big interest in more content production for their headsets. I mean, I think this is only just starting. I mean, they all have the outlets to distribute this stuff to viewers. So my guess is we will see probably Apple TV Plus content for the Vision Pro as soon as when it will get more adoption. Maybe the next generation that might be cheaper, who knows? But a lot of people are now really excited about producing 3D content again, but it's not easy to produce proper 3D content, because when you do it right, the cameras need to move. Like the cameras need to be next to each other, but they need to move when you refocus, because that is actually doing it correctly. If you keep them, that's what guy from PDMovie explained to me. Of course, there's this red-green effect that you can do. You can basically fake 3D for normal the stuff that was shot normally, but it's very tiring for the eye, because then the eyes need to do the adjustment. If you have those red-green glasses, they need to do it. Now, I'm not an expert on this stuff, so correct me if I'm wrong, write us. I'm not claiming to be, but the rig that they showed is actually a mirror box, very small mirror box, where you can have one camera at the back and the second camera, identical camera, on top, and both of them have this LiDAR motor. The box itself has a LiDAR motor, a LiDAR sensor in front, and those cameras are moving depending on what's in focus. And the funny thing is, it's autofocus, right? So it's really made for the individual shooter to shoot 3D movies in a very small rig. I mean, they showed it with these small Blackmagic. I'm very bad with the names of Blackmagic cameras, but those little cube cameras that they have. And they also showed it with 2 Sony FX3, and they even had it on a Ronin gimbal. I mean, you can hold this alone on a gimbal and shoot spatial video. They also had a Vision Pro at the booth, and I tried it out, and I watched some of the stuff they shot at a different trade show in Korea, and also some stuff on the street in China, and it's very impressive. I mean, this was made with this tiny rig, and of course what that means is that you can shoot much more unobtrusively, because those huge rigs, of course, limit you in what you can shoot and where you can shoot. So basically, and it's a very smart combination of the LiDAR autofocus that they have, and also miniaturizing this production of 3D movies that I've not seen before. Also, of course, don't forget that I think the Vision Pros, people say that this 17K Blackmagic camera We saw at a Apple keynote a couple months ago, I think it was a Worldwide Developers Conference, Apple actually showed the camera from Blackmagic. They kind of leaked a camera from Blackmagic that is made for spatial shooting, which is the 17K sensor with like dual lenses in front. And they, like everybody's saying, that you need this kind of resolution because the Vision Pro has these very high resolution lenses and monitors inside, which is true. I mean, it looks amazingly close to reality actually when you wear them as opposed to other headsets. But that means you need very high resolution, and almost no sensor gives that resolution. Now, if you use the PDMovie system, let's say with two Sony A1 and shot 8K on each of those cameras, you end up with 16K resolution, and you have a much smaller rig than this Blackmagic rig, for example. Yeah. So, like, correct me if I'm wrong again, but that's my guess. I think this can be cool for people who really want to get into producing stuff for that. And I'm really thinking about, I know people who, like production companies who already shoot content for Vision Pro for clients that have the Vision Pro in their showrooms to show stuff. And, I think it's definitely a niche where, it's not crowded yet. If you want to get into this, I'm sure there's a market for that. And this PDMovie rig, the 3D Air, is, I think she said it's between $2,000 and $3,000. It's nothing compared to what you usually pay for this stuff. And it's going to be available in November, I think. It's going to be an easy way to get into this, and also probably the only way to shoot 3D in a very, very small setup and even have autofocus. I mean, and you could, you could even put anamorphic lenses on this and have anamorphic autofocus with their LiDAR autofocus. I mean, it's insane.
We will check it out. We have this small unit here. This kind of
but just the focus motor.
The focus, but it's a LiDAR thing, and it's one thing. I'm actually more interested because I had an interesting conversation with Sarah from BLAZAR, because she's a DP. Actually, she's not she is in the marketing department, but she is a qualified DP about the LiDAR technology in general. And she said something quite interesting. I have no experience working with LiDAR, but with the experience that she had, LiDAR has issues focusing on white stuff. When it's really white, it's kind of missing the point of focus. That's, of course, brought me to think about Tesla and some incidents that they had in the past with white cars and so on. It can be that it simply doesn't see white. So this is one of the things that I would definitely will check when with the PDMovie little LiDAR motor that we got here. I really want to see how it works on white.
Yeah, I mean the DJI solution, which we actually also still should review, works really well from what I've seen. I don't know about the white, to be honest. Yeah, we should test this. Yeah. Maybe we should compare the two systems at some point. Good. What else did excite us? I mean, there was a lot of things that, do you remember sliders?
I do, and in all honesty, I'm still working with a slider. I have a very, very, very small YC Onion slider. Yeah. There's really nothing. It's like 40 centimeters. It's always in my bag.
I'm saying this jokingly. I also like to work with sliders. I still use the SERP. Unfortunately, the brand doesn't exist anymore, but it's an amazing slider for me. Manual. You can use it on motorized too, but I like the manual version. But basically, iFootage released a new version of their Shark slider Nano, the Nano 2. And we did an interview on that. And surprisingly, it is a very, very popular video, actually. And I think it's very popular because they made a very, very smart move. They actually worked together with DJI to enable support for the RS2, RS3, and RS4 gimbals. So you can just take off the battery grip from those gimbals and put it directly onto the slider. And then there will be, and I'm saying will be because right now it's just an alpha version app, but there will be an app from from iFootage that allows you to do tracking. And it's 4-axis tracking basically. So it's moving the gimbal in every direction, and it's also moving the slider. So you can just set keyframes. And the cool thing is the way you set keyframes, that's even the same as it was on the first generation. But you don't have to do this, you know, like you don't have to use a joystick or an app and then just move it in one direction really slowly and then pan it up. And, you know, like it takes ages to do this. You can just manually move it, literally point the gimbal and then set the keyframe, and it will already record the keyframe, and then you can do a transmission between the two keyframes and just move between the two. And it uses the Ronin RS234 as a remote head. It really makes it a full remote head on a slider. So, you know, like, I mean, we know all with the Raven Eye from DJI, you can just put the gimbal on the table and it can follow your face, for example. So you can do, you know, like it can track your face, it can film you do stuff, and just the camera will point, and then also using the LiDAR, it will also refocus. So it's also self-sufficient. But in this case, it adds this fourth axis, which is the movement of the slider. And that's a really, really nice innovation, I think. It will come in two sizes. I think the longer one will have an effective movable length of about 40 centimeters and the shorter one like 20. I wish there was a longer slider, to be honest, because if you put this in the studio, of course, if there was like a meter or something like that, that'd be great. Maybe it will come in the future, but really impressive, really, you know, great innovation for a product that, like a product category where we haven't seen much innovation in many years. I mean, nobody has, you know, there's been these small sliders that you like to use, which were probably the most recent innovation, just smaller and smaller sliders, but the functionality basically didn't change. And this is something nice. What else?
Good. No, well, we covered, of course, different lights from Aputure and from Godox and Nine Light, who showed some nice things, but many of those things were announced prior to the show.
No, the Aputure Storm was announced at the show, and that's a really impressive light. We also gave it the Best of Show award for Best New Lighting Innovation, and that is because of a couple of things. Well, first of all, it's a very small light for the output that it has, which is 1200 watts, and it equals a 1.8 kilowatt HMI. So that's insane. You know, like if you look at how big an HMI with a ballast is that can output this kind of lighting, it's impressive. Also, it is a Bowens mount, but we all know the problem with a Bowens mount, that it rattles a bit. It's not super tight. So if you have an accessory like a modifier on there, it's, you know, and they kind of made a locking mechanism that's almost like a locking lens mount, and then you can pick up the light on the accessory, you know, that's on the modifier. But what's most impressive about it is that I didn't even know before that, but Tim Kang, who was prior to that, he was with Quasar, and we did an interview with him. I talked to him at BSC, I think 2.5 years ago, where he's a really technical mind and comes up with crazy lighting ideas. It's also very much involved in virtual production. At that time, we did a video where he showed a kind of virtual production on a budget studio, basically a very big TV in the background. And then he was mapping those Quasar tubes to what was happening on the screen. So, for example, there was footage of a fire in the background in darkness, and then he would map those RGB tubes that they would really flicker as if you're on the scene. So kind of like virtual production on a budget. Of course, no camera tracking and that. But this was one of the first times we saw this. And now, of course, everybody else has done this. I mean, this is kind of standard, this tracking for... he was one of the guys who came up with this stuff. And then Aputure hired him at some point. I don't know if he was with ProLight in between, because ProLight was bought by Aputure, of course. But anyway, he's now with Aputure, and he was the brain behind this light. And what he came up with was also that we all know this complaint and trouble that we all sometimes have, that we have the feeling that LED lights are not as gentle to skin tones as traditional hot lights, especially tungsten lights. And he explained to me that there's several reasons for that, but one of the big reasons is that there is no fluorescent component in LED light, whereas traditional hot lights have that component. And he demonstrated it actually, and you can see it in Ted. We interviewed Ted from Aputure. He demonstrates it in the video with a flashlight and the surface, that our skin, for example, teeth, eyeballs, they all have fluorescent components. But normal LED lights don't show this, And with this one, it actually they added this component, and it supposedly makes skin look more natural on a camera sensor, because camera sensors are made to pick up some of that fluorescent quality. Now, of course, there are still other properties of LED lights that are different from hot lights. For example, they all are not very great in the reds. Like the red channel is always too low. This is something they still need to fix. But this is already a big jump, and my guess is that they will add this to all the lights over time. I think they even said that they will do this, because of course that will just make skin tones look more natural on camera. And as far as we know, this is Aputure is the first company to do this.
I don't know about this specific technology, but iFootage was there already, I think 1.5 or 2 years ago.
Really?
With LED light with actually flattering the skin tone much better.
With fluorescence.
Again, I don't know what technology, I can't remember simply what technology they used, but that was the main selling point. And I think we also demonstrated in a review that we made that it just looks nice. The skin tone looks nicer.
Okay. Oh, first time I heard about it, could definitely be that it was there before. So that's for lights. We did a interview with some DIT guys actually, and we gave them an award for best newcomer.
It's always inspiring to see young guys gaining from their own experience on the field. And in this case, it's 3 or 4 friends, but also DITs that literally working in the field, and they saw that they find it really hard how to back up and make sure that copy, backup, and store the footage. So they came up with their own solution. It took them 7 years. I mean, this is really like a marathon running, and we were very impressed with the determination to do so. I'll let you explain a bit about the product if you remember, but I'm just saying, for all of us, this is a good lesson. If you have an idea, go for it. Don't give up. It's very, very difficult to. An idea is just an idea, but if you really believe in it, to go all the way and try to execute it. Of course, you need also a bit of luck here, and probably money. But let's talk about the thing.
Let me explain what it is. It's called Pixel Cube, and it's essentially a yellow pellicase, which is made for on-set offloading of camera data, but automatically. So it's completely hidden. It has no screen, but it has a Mac Mini built in. They ripped it apart. I'm just, for the people watching the video version here, I'm just showing a Instagram reel, because at the time of recording, our video is not online yet, that we did with them, the interview. And they ripped apart a Mac Mini, put that in. They put in a very, very good reader, like several readers, of course. Like I don't recall
card readers.
I don't recall what the brand is, but it's basically a hub, and you have modular readers that you can put in metal cases. And there's one for CF Express Type B, one for all kinds, and they even have a separate one for the Alexa media and so on. The only thing they struggle with is of course the huge reader for the Sony Venice, which is by itself, I think it costs like 5,000 or 6,000. It's crazy, but so you can plug it in. Of course, there are ports. The unit also has ports in the back, and what's really nice is it's fully automatic. So you basically define before how many it has built-in SSDs, but you can also put in SSD modules, and you just define how many you want to put in, and then you put in the card, and it automatically starts offloading and do checksum verification. And when it's done, it actually formats the card. It deletes the footage, but it formats it in a way that, because on an on-site workflow, it makes sense. You have your backups, but then it will, you put it back into the camera, and the camera will require you to format the card. So you will never in the situation where you put the card into the camera and you're like, oh, there's a lot of footage on it. Have we offloaded? Everybody knows this feeling, right? Even though you have backed it up, even though you have checked all the files, you put it back in the camera, you look into and there's always these couple seconds where like, did I have everything? So this can't happen because it's just formatted, but you can be sure that it's there, because the fact that the camera will tell you that it's that it needs to be formatted is the proof that you've offloaded it in this case. Yeah, and they actually explained to me, which I didn't know, this is a standard workflow for DITs to do this. In general, when they just implemented this in this box. Now, they're not, and they were very clear about this, they're not trying to replace the DIT, their own job. But what they are trying to do, because right now this box is for rental only. I mean, they will sell it in the future too, but the idea is that they find local DITs in different areas, and actually the DIT would buy this and then hire him or herself out with the box, so and then make themselves available for, and that's the key point here, for sets that usually don't use a DIT. We know like film production, like high-end, like feature film, series production, of course, always uses a DIT. Commercials also, but those medium-sized documentary productions specifically, where we all know this, it's very annoying. End of the day, either the assistant or yourself, you have to offload everything, and it just adds hours to your day. And depending now with cameras being able to record higher and higher bit rates, and sometimes RAW internally, if that is required, that only makes everything longer and more cumbersome if you don't have the right SSDs and the right media, actually the right reader, the right cables, everything. And this is often an afterthought by the producers. So in this case, you would be able to rent this box. I think it's now for 150 euros a day, which is completely reasonable, I think. And then you would have a remote DIT work with you for 1 or 2 hours, depending on what you need. So and you just pay them per the hour, which of course for the producer is a much more feasible option than actually paying a DIT a full day, whereas they would only have a lot of work at the end of the day. And yeah, I think it's a very smart move, because it's actually opening up additional hiring opportunities for DITs. Like you have this box, you can offer your service as you always did to the big productions, but now you can also approach smaller productions and say, hey, I have this thing. And actually, like if you shoot a normal documentary with 2-3 cameras a day, maybe drone stuff and so on, I will do this remotely. And what will this person do remotely? They will make sure that there is a proper metadata tagging, that is all the lists that you need, all the checking that everything is there, that is doubled there. And that's what's important to them, because of course fully relying on this is also a liability thing. Like you wouldn't, having no screen is a bit something, like it's also, people want to see that, and that's why this is important. Now the box has full connectivity. It has 5G built in. It has Wi-Fi built in.
You can back up to the cloud also.
You can back up to the cloud. It can automatically upload proxies. Excuse me. It's even fully integrated with Pomford's Silver Stack, which is the industry standard for DITs. And they can, could already start to remotely edit, basically using this as well. If you don't have camera to cloud on the camera or whatever, you just do this like this. So really, really nice idea, I think, and something that DITs should actually look at, and maybe rental houses that maybe have also DITs, because I think there's definitely a market for this.
Yeah. So I think we like the product, and of course in combination with the personalities behind it who are really deserve the push if we can help. Nino, we also had a very successful coverage of LC-Tec. Tell me a little bit about the company and what they do.
Yeah, so LC-Tec is a technology company. They don't really make products, but they invented they have a patent, and they invented variable ND that we reported about last year. They got a Best of Show award. I think it was last IBC. And this year, there's the first two products actually that use the variable ND as they actually promised last year. And one is the Metabones adapter with variable ND, and the other one is the Mirage Pro matte box from Tilta. And they announced with a similar technology, they applied this to variable diffusion now. So there's not an actual product yet. It will probably also be made by Tilta in the future, probably also in the Mirage matte box. But they showed under the same way, kind of, you can have variable diffusion now. So, and it can be fully clear as well. So it means that you can just keep the glass in front of the lens. You don't have to take it out like with the ND, because the ND always has a minimum ND. It's not possible to make it fully clear, but with the diffusion it's possible. So it's actually amazing that now a camera assistant can kind of dial in the amount of diffusion without exchanging filters, which is of course saving a lot of time if you just have this in your matte box and you don't need to get the right filter. You just define what amount of diffusion you want, and then they just put it in, and that's it, right? And you don't need to exchange filters. So that's gonna be a huge time saver. And of course, it opens up the possibility to have kind of like diffusion ramps. So you start from nothing and you go up or go down. Whoever needs that, maybe like you have a camera movement that is moving towards an actor or an actress, and at the end you want this softer look on the face, but not through the whole movement. This is now possible. This is something you would probably have done in post in the past, but now you can shoot it like that. What's exciting also is those products that I mentioned for the ND, and we actually gave a Best of Show award to the Mirage Pro from Tilta, which is literally the application of that technology that we awarded last year. So we just want to emphasize how we important find this, especially for ND. But the other one is Metabones. So a lot of you guys will know the Metabones adapters, especially most famously probably the EFE adapter that allows you to adapt Canon EF lenses to Sony E-mount, which has been very, very popular for many people, including myself and yourself, because many of us but have a lot of EF lenses. And when we swapped over from Canon DSLRs to Sony cameras, the mirrorless cameras specifically, then we were able just to use them with this adapter. Of course, not, autofocus didn't work as well, but that was not a big issue a couple of years ago when the autofocus was not so great on these cameras yet. And now they released a new version of that exact same adapter. So it's not a speed booster, it's just an adapter, but it has the ND built in. So you can actually switch in and out the ND filter, so you can have a clear view without the filter, without removing the adapter, which is great. It's a relatively small box, and so you physically swap it out, and there's a little display on top, and you can dial in the level of ND once it's enabled, and it's great. I mean, now that makes every E-mount camera have a variable ND. Actually, something we asked for, like Sony, we always begged Sony to put in their variable ND filter into their alpha cameras, which they already have in the FX line, in the FX6, FX9, not in the FX3. But so this basically makes that, but you will have to use EF lenses, of course.
Nino, won't it make it just so much easier if the camera manufacturers would include variable ND filters in the cameras?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're surprised. I mean, the argument we always heard is that there's simply not enough space to put the technology that Sony uses in the FX line into the smaller cameras. But yes, Sony has a different patent on the kind of same thing. I mean, that's what LC-Tec says. They're not infringing each other's patents for some reason, but they're doing the same thing. So it's a variable ND filter, and in both cases, you have to move out the filter. There's no possibility to make it fully clear. But, Sony is very successfully using this on the FX6, FX9. It also allows you to have auto ND, which is a lovely feature, by the way. I like just having automatic adjustment of ND is so much more convenient than automatic adjustment of aperture or shutter, of course, because it doesn't affect the image. Yeah. But it's for some reason, Sony always said that whatever their implementation is, it's not possible, at least for now, to put in their Alpha series because of size. It would make the cameras much bigger. I think Metabones and LC-Tec kind of proved that, at least with their technology, it's possible because it's not really big. I mean, it's adding a couple of 4 centimeters on the side because you need this physical space to move out the filter, which you can flip in and out. Of course, that's the issue, right? If the filter could always be in front of the lens, we wouldn't even talk about this, because if it would be fully clear, it can just stay there. But that's not possible. So you need this space. Yes, it would make cameras a little bit bigger, but if you think about the size of, let's say, a Canon C80, yeah, right, which looks like a beefed up mirrorless camera, it would make it a little bit thicker. Like if a company like Canon that doesn't have this variable ND, hopefully they can license it from these guys and just put it in also, because of course it'd be nice to have that technology in not only Sony cameras built in, but also others, and especially in smaller cameras. But so now we have the EFE adapter. I'm sure they can also do an EFL. I hope that will come in the future, which should be popular as well, because of course with Blackmagic cameras and so on. Let's see where this goes. But this is really becoming mainstream now, and we have this company LC-Tec, which is not owned by any of the giants. They are free to license it to whoever, and you already see they do it with Tilta, they do it with Metabones. So why not do it with a camera manufacturer? Yeah. So hopefully the camera manufacturers will see this potential and apply this, like other manufacturers other than Sony, into their cameras. Yeah.
Good, Nino. I think we spoke about most of the.
Exciting
much
stuff.
More. Yeah,
There's a lot more.
A lot more.
Yeah.
But I think that summarized kind of nicely this show. Yeah. And please, guys, visit us and check whatever you're interested in. We have probably the video for it.
Yeah, and again, maybe next week or the week after even, we will still highlight a few other things that we covered at IBC that excited us. But those were definitely some of our highlights.
And if you were already following us or even other media houses, all good, and something excited you, please just comment and let us know. We're always happy to hear from you guys.
Thanks everybody for watching. Please don't forget to give us a good rating on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Give us a like on this YouTube video. Follow us if you don't follow us yet. Spread the word about the podcast. We appreciate it, and see you and hear you next week.